you need to understand where many of those people who are part of your target readership are at in their lives.
Yeah.
Right. What are kind of the like unifying, like lowest common denominator is often used as a derogatory thing, but I think here it actually makes sense. What's something that is more universally commonplace that people of that age bracket, of that target demographic, are going to be experiencing at that time of their lives? Because if you're not speaking to your audience, you're not going to have your audience's attention. You're not going to have their loyalty, certainly, right? You're not going to have their readership, because they're going to be like, you said this was for me. This doesn't feel like it's for me, right?
Exactly.
So you need to meet them where they're at. And so you need to have some things layered in there that feel topical for them in terms of like, yeah, I'm a high schooler. And so this is some of the stuff, whether it is a one-to-one or, you know, at least loosely similar, something I can vibe with, something I can connect with on some level. Because here's the thing that good storytelling can do, and that's that you don't have to one-to-one connect with every single thing that happens in a story. You just have to have something that you latch onto with a story or a character. That's why for decades and decades, so many people, regardless of skin color, regardless of whether they're male or female, didn't matter. They could latch on to a character because there was something about that character that they connected with. Right. One of my all-time favorite characters in comic books is Aurora Monroe, Storm of the X-Men. This might come as a surprise to the audience. Are you ready for this?
Okay, we're bracing ourselves.
I'm not an African goddess black woman.
Oh, snap. Y'all heard it here first.
Major NDA broken here,
that's
right?
crazy.
But that doesn't matter, right? That's just a superficial thing. But if
are you sure you don't feel like one on the inside?
All right, it's 2025. Maybe there's a chance, right? As long as there's something that you connect with a character, that's all that matters. You don't have to. It doesn't have to be a one-to-one on anything else. As long as there's something where you're like, ooh, I kind of feel that character there, right? I feel that whatever it is that they're going through, I get it. Whether that's a one-to-one or the way that the human mind works is, you know, you could see something and maybe you just kind of transposed whatever it is you're going through at the time, and you connected it with that fictional character, and like, and that story all of a sudden speaks to you on a much deeper level. 100%. That's kind of what I'm trying to go with Blue Shift tryouts and Zephyr's story in general, in that I want a younger audience to feel like, man, like, I feel that. Like, I get that. Like, I'm there in some capacity right now. Or maybe even people like in their 20s where they're like, hey, I remember that 10 years ago, right?
Yeah, so let me ask you this. So, because what I've noticed, and it's been an interesting thing for me to see, is like I'll talk to my younger cousins and nephews and whatnot, and I'll talk about, because the things that like I was always interested in when I was a kid, if I was into superhero stuff and all that, I was into the shows. I watched Batman the Animated Series. I watched X-Men Unlimited. I watched like all the different ones, X-Men Animated Series, X-Men Unlimited, what was it, Justice League, Teen Titans, and all that kind of stuff. These were a big part of my childhood. But then even growing up, even as a adult, even when I was in college, man, I used to sit there in my study hall or in the library on the computer. I'd have a screen that was playing Arrow and Flash and different ones while I was sitting there writing a paper and doing different things like that, because I love the superhero entertainment as a whole, right? It was really good to me. I was not that big into comics because we didn't grow up, like we weren't really buying comics. Like the very first comic I ever had was with what came from a Transformers toy that I got when I was a kid, of Transformers Energon comic that me and my brother got. And then like we get a comic every now and then, but it was more so the animated shows that really kind of got us into those. And so the MCU and the DCEU and all those movies that came in afterwards, we really very much enjoyed. But when I talk to people now, when I talk to younger people now, they don't seem to have a desire for much of the superhero content that exists in the world. It always makes me think like maybe that is something that just kind of passed, or if, and then I also ask the question, because you said kind of meet them where they're at. Where are the kids at? They're in their phones. So they're in their phones. If we look at like so much, and I know the Rippaverse hasn't really done anything in the digital world right now. I would like to pitch an idea to you, sir. I think that, and this is just my opinion, and you could take it to Eric and he could tell you like, yes, well, shut up. But you guys know the numbers, you know your demographics and all that kind of stuff. But I think there's a world where we look at what we're trying to reach people on with web comics and different things like that, and getting people connected to that. Has anybody ever considered, or has Rippaverse considered at least doing projects like your Rippazines, right? Your short story Rippazines, putting a version of that on a webtoon or whatever like that, or even having them digitally on Rippaverse site? Just maybe a couple dollars difference or whatever like that, just because I feel like that expands your reach a bit more. I know the value is in that physical, and we love the collector and all that, but the collector's dying out. That I feel like, this is just me being ignorant as all, not knowing the comic book industry as all. You guys have way more knowledge on that than myself. But as I look at it, from what I can tell, I'm like, these kids, they stay on their phones. They want to go with that. I don't know too many kids that are going to be buying comics, no matter how great your story, how much you relate that story to them.
So I'm actually going to push back on that a little bit, because
all right,
manga has a different story to tell. Mm-hmm. Because manga has a very large teenage audience. Mm-hmm. But what is it that differentiates that from modern mainstream comic books? Well, the stories are a bit more flashy. Mm-hmm. The stories really connect with people. People are interested in what's happening in those books. There's also the affordability aspect. Obviously, manga is all in black and white. That's a different conversation. Mm-hmm. But all that is to say, younger audiences are still very much willing to get in on a physical medium when it comes to, or a physical distribution model when it comes to a storytelling medium like comic books, like graphic novels, like manga. I'm not saying that the books that we're putting out are like, oh, it's immediately as iconic as Death of Superman. I'm not an imbecile. But to be at the ground level of a burgeoning universe, that means you get to kind of like be a part of the world building.